They laughed at your silence. They confused your gentleness for fear. They thought your loyalty meant you'd never walk away. But oh Capricorn, they had no idea who they were dealing with. You see, your silence was never weakness, it was wisdom. Your calmness was not surrender, it was control. And your loyalty was not desperation, it was divine assignment. You were sent into certain people's lives to help them rise, to guide them toward balance, to bring light into their confusion. You were never there by accident. You were placed there, strategically, spiritually, divinely. You came with good intentions, pure energy, and a heart that wanted to see others win. But instead of gratitude, they gave you cruelty. Instead of appreciation, they offered manipulation. They saw your patience and mistook it for permission. They saw your forgiveness and believed you would never leave. They misjudged the sacredness of your soul. They thought they could play with your heart because you'd never raise your voice. They thought they could take from you endlessly because you never asked for anything back. But what they didn't understand is that every act of kindness you gave was recorded by the universe. Every tear you held back, every time you bit your tongue, every moment you helped, even when you were hurting, heaven saw it all. Capricorn, you are not just a giver, you are a divine builder. Your nature is to construct stability where others bring chaos. You bring structure where there is confusion, and peace where there is pride. You are the quiet backbone that keeps things standing even when everything else is falling apart. And yet so often people mistake that strength for weakness. They fail to see that your gentleness is your greatest power. They don't understand that your silence isn't submission, it's self-mastery. But the time of misunderstanding is ending. The tables are turning, and the very people who look down on you will soon look up to you. Those who once mocked your calm will be shaken by your rise. Because the universe is now balancing the scales, and it's doing so in your favor. Your story is shifting. The same energy you once gave away freely is returning to you in divine measure. This is not revenge, this is restoration, and it begins now. Before we go deeper, type this in the comments below to anchor your spirit and declare your truth. My kindness was never weakness. It was strength disguised as grace. Say it with conviction, because it's more than words. It's who you are. Your kindness was your test. Your endurance was your trial. And now your reward is coming. So stay with me until the end, Capricorn. Every word that follows in this message was written for you, because the universe has seen enough. And now it's your turn to be seen, to be respected, and to be restored. You entered their lives quietly, Capricorn, not with noise, not with pride, not with the need to be noticed. You simply appeared, like a calm sunrise after a stormy night. You didn't ask to be praised. You only wanted to bring peace where there was chaos, stability where there was confusion. Your spirit was designed to heal, to build, to lift others when they had forgotten how to stand on their own. You noticed the pain in people before they even spoke of it. You could sense their heaviness through silence, and you carried their troubles as if they were your own. You gave them understanding when they gave you indifference. You gave them warmth even when their hearts were cold toward you. Capricorn, you have always been that silent helper, the one who doesn't speak much about what they're doing, but whose presence changes everything around them. You build with your heart. You fix what others break. You hold things together when everyone else walks away. You walked into lives that were shattered, thinking you could help them rebuild. You believed that love, patience, and guidance could mend the cracks in their souls. And for a while, it worked, until they mistook your compassion for control, and your calmness for weakness. They didn't see the power it takes to remain kind in a cruel world. They didn't understand that your silence was not a lack of strength. It was proof of your discipline. Because only a strong soul can stay calm when disrespected. Only a wise soul can keep giving when surrounded by takers. But they didn't value that. They began to treat you like someone they could use endlessly. They began to assume you'd always be available, always understanding, always forgiving. They thought they could keep taking from you without ever giving back. They only saw a servant where heaven saw a healer. They thought you existed to make their life easier, but in truth, you were sent to awaken them. You were placed in their path as a mirror of divine love, a reminder that goodness still exists. But they looked at that mirror and saw nothing special. They mocked the very light that was trying to save them. Capricorn, you carried their emotions when they couldn't manage their own. You gave advice no one gave to you. You stood by them even when they turned away from you. And though your heart grew weary, you still prayed for them in silence. You still wished them well, even when they didn't deserve it. But through it all, the divine was watching. Every sacrifice you made was seen. Every time you stayed strong while breaking inside, it was noted. Every tear you hid from the world, it was counted. Heaven didn't overlook your pain, it studied your endurance. You weren't being ignored, you were being tested and observed. The universe watched how you loved those who couldn't love you back. It watched how you stayed loyal in places where others were careless. It watched how you still gave light even when surrounded by shadows. And while they thought you were invisible, you were actually being documented in the books of divine justice. Capricorn, your kindness was never wasted. Your giving spirit was never in vain. You were chosen to bring healing into spaces that didn't even know they were broken. And though they couldn't see it then, the seeds you planted will soon reveal who you truly were in their story. You were not weak for helping them. You were chosen because you had the heart to do what no one else would. And now, heaven is preparing to show them what happens when you mistreat the one sent to heal you. Because your chapter of silent giving is ending, and the chapter of divine recognition is about to begin. There came a time, Capricorn, when your soul started to notice something wasn't right. The energy around you began to shift. You started to feel the imbalance, that uneasy silence in your heart that whispered, they don't value you anymore. Your kindness wasn't changing them, it was enabling them. The more you gave, the more they took. The more patient you were, the more they pushed the limits. You showed them grace, but instead of gratitude, they grew arrogant. They began to take without asking, expecting your help as if it were a duty, not a gift. And slowly they started to mock the same heart that once protected them. They joked about your gentleness. They treated your generosity like weakness. They couldn't see that your silence was mercy, not fear. They forgot that your peace came from strength, not surrender. Capricorn, you were sent to help, but they thought they owned your light. They thought they could shape your purpose, drain your energy, and still have you smiling afterward. They forgot that even the kindest souls have boundaries, and that every helper has a breaking point. But still, you said nothing. You stayed calm. You tried to reason with yourself. Maybe they're just going through something, maybe they'll change. You wanted to believe that love could wake them up. You wanted to believe they'd one day see the truth, that all you ever wanted was peace and mutual respect. But instead, they wounded you. Not once, but again and again. And each time they hurt you, it felt a little deeper because you never expected that kind of pain from the ones you helped. It wasn't the strangers that broke your heart, it was the ones you'd have defended with your life. They celebrated your silence. They laughed behind your back. They whispered stories that painted you as weak, naive, or replaceable. They thought you'd never rise, that you'd stay beneath them forever. Helping, serving, giving. But what they didn't see was that the universe was watching everything. While they thought they were winning, heaven was observing. Every word they spoke in mockery was being written down. Every unkind act they did toward you was being recorded. The universe was building a case, not for your destruction, but for your vindication. You see, divine justice never rushes. It doesn't strike in anger, it moves in perfect timing. It allows people to dig their own graves while you keep walking in truth. Because when the tables turn, the lesson hits harder when it's delayed. Capricorn, that was your season of disrespect. A time when people showed their true faces. A time when masks fell and you realized who was genuine and who only stayed for what you could give. It was painful, yes, but it was also necessary. Because without that season, you would never have learned the sacred difference between being kind and being used. The universe was teaching you boundaries through betrayal. It was teaching you strength through silence. It was showing you that love without respect is a trap, and you deserve more than that. They thought they defeated you, but really, they exposed themselves. And while they laughed, thinking they had broken you, the divine was quietly preparing your comeback. A comeback that wouldn't just prove your strength, it would reveal your purpose. Because what they didn't know, Capricorn, was that the moment they disrespected you, they lost access to the blessing that was you. And that loss will soon become their greatest regret. Then something shifted. Slowly, silently, the energy began to change. Not through anger, not through revenge, but through divine balance. The same silence they mocked began to echo in their hearts. The same calmness they once laughed at became the stillness that now haunts them. The same distance they forced upon you became the emptiness they now live in. Capricorn, the tables didn't turn because you fought back. They turned because the truth could no longer be hidden. The universe doesn't need noise to make justice known. It simply rearranges energy in perfect alignment. And one day, they woke up to realize that the light they thought was ordinary was the very glow that kept their world alive. The universe took you away, not to punish you, but to teach them what your presence meant. Because sometimes the absence of a real soul hurts more than the presence of 1,000 fakes. They didn't understand the value of your energy until they had to live without it. They didn't know your silence was peace until they were left with their own noise. They didn't see your patience as strength until they met others who lacked it. Now they're restless. They wander from one person to another, trying to find the same calm that you carried effortlessly. They try to imitate your grace, your focus, your stability, but it doesn't work. Because what you had wasn't learned, it was divinely given. And no one can copy what heaven placed inside you. Capricorn, the same people who ignored you now speak your name with regret. The same ones who once thought they were above you now watch you from a distance. Confused at how everything they wished against you has turned into your growth. You didn't need to defend yourself. You didn't need to raise your voice or prove your innocence. You simply walked away, and that walk was the sound of karma arriving. The divine took your silence as a signal to step in. Every time you held back your words, heaven spoke louder on your behalf. Every time you chose peace over conflict, the universe rewarded your restraint with power. You didn't lose anything, they did. Because while they were laughing, you were evolving. While they were mocking, you were maturing. And while they were gossiping, you were glowing. Now their laughter sounds hollow. Their pride feels heavy. They look around and realize the helper they mistreated has become the blessing they can't reach anymore. The one they underestimated has become untouchable. You are no longer the one they can manipulate or take advantage of. You've become the evidence of divine justice in motion, the living reminder that when the universe protects a soul, no one can destroy it. This is what the turning of the tables looks like, Capricorn. It's not loud, it's not revenge, it's restoration, calm, quiet, and undeniable. And as they watch you rise, they'll finally understand. The strength they mocked was the strength that kept them alive. Capricorn, this is your rising season. This is the moment when everything that was taken from you begins to return. Not in pieces, but in overflowing waves. The same energy they drained from you is being restored tenfold. The same doors that were shut in your face are beginning to open with divine ease. Where you were once rejected, you will now be respected. Where your words were dismissed, they will now be remembered. Where your silence was mocked, it will now speak louder than ever. You are no longer the one trying to prove your worth. You embody it now. There was a time when you chased connection, when you tried to show people your heart, your loyalty, your depth. But now you don't need to chase anyone or anything. You have become magnetic. Your peace calls the right people toward you. Your confidence attracts those who match your energy. The light you carry doesn't have to convince anyone. It simply shines, and the world notices. This is what divine reversal looks like. The same people who mistook your calm for weakness are now speechless. They can't understand how the same Capricorn they overlooked has risen so gracefully. Those who mocked your solitude are now craving your peace. They long for the calm you carry, but they can't access it because peace doesn't live in pride. Peace lives in hearts that have been purified through pain and patience, and that's you. Capricorn, your journey was never punishment, it was preparation. The heartbreaks, the betrayals, the disappointments, they weren't meant to destroy you. They were shaping you, teaching you how to rise above pettiness, how to move with wisdom, and how to walk with quiet confidence. You were never losing, you were learning. Because to carry the blessing that's coming next, you had to learn who could never handle it beside you. If they had stayed, they would have spoiled what God was building in you. If they had continued walking with you, they would have taken credit for the grace that belongs to heaven alone. So they were removed, not to hurt you, but to protect your next chapter. So don't grieve their loss, Capricorn. Celebrate your release. You didn't lose people, you lost burdens. You didn't lose opportunities, you gained alignment. The universe is lifting you into a new atmosphere. One where you will no longer have to explain your worth, defend your heart, or beg to be seen. The tables turn not because of luck, but because heaven decided it was time. It was time for the misunderstood to rise, time for the humble to be honored, time for your quiet strength to speak for itself. Capricorn, your light is rising now, steady, powerful, undeniable. And soon, everyone who once misjudged you will have no choice but to say they were never weak, they were wise. You see, Capricorn, you weren't sent into their lives by accident. You were placed there by divine timing, not because you were weak or naive, but because heaven trusted your heart. There are souls in this world who are too wounded to recognize light when it enters their lives. They push away what's pure, because they are comfortable in pain. And you, Capricorn, were sent as a gentle disruption to their chaos, a reminder that goodness still walks the earth. You didn't come to please everyone. You came to plant awareness. You came to awaken hearts that were asleep. You came to show them what loyalty looks like when the world around them only knew betrayal. You came to teach them what patience sounds like when anger has been their language for years. You came to model what unconditional love can do when someone finally chooses healing over ego. You were not an accident in their story. You were a divine intervention. Your arrival in their lives carried spiritual weight. You didn't know it then, but your words, your calmness, your presence, all of it was rearranging their inner world. They saw you as ordinary, but heaven saw you as chosen. They saw you as someone to use, but you were someone sent to lift. Capricorn, think back for a moment. How many times did you pour yourself out for people who never even said thank you? How many nights did you stay awake, praying for those who never prayed for you? How many times did you hold others together while you were quietly falling apart? You did it not because you wanted praise, but because your spirit couldn't turn away from those in need. That is who you are, the silent builder, the quiet protector, the steady heart that keeps beating even after being broken. And yes, they mistreated you. They mocked your kindness. They took from you like you'd never run out. They made you question whether helping was worth it. But here's what they didn't know. Every act of kindness you gave, every tear you cried, every time you forgave when you shouldn't have, it was all part of your higher purpose. You were never losing, Capricorn. You were learning. You were developing the kind of heart that the universe rewards, the kind that endures and still chooses love over bitterness. Even if they failed the test, you didn't. You passed yours with quiet dignity, because your test was never about them. It was about you. Would you still choose light in the face of darkness? Would you still choose empathy when surrounded by selfishness? Would you still choose faith when everything around you seemed unfair? And you did. You kept walking in grace, even when the world gave you every reason not to. You see, your life has always carried a divine pattern. Your lessons arrive through relationships, through loyalty, through pain, through sacrifice. You loved deeply because your soul was made from deep waters, calm on the surface, but filled with immeasurable strength beneath. That's why when others break, you bend and recover. That's why when others run away, you stay long enough to understand the purpose behind the pain. Capricorn, every betrayal you faced sharpened your discernment. It taught you to look beyond words and see intentions. It taught you to listen, not to what people say, but to what their energy reveals. It taught you the difference between those who come to use you and those who come to uplift you. Every heartbreak reminded you that not everyone deserves your loyalty, and not everyone can walk with you to where you're going. And every rejection, it wasn't punishment, it was divine direction. It was heaven saying, this door cannot open with you inside that room. It was protection, disguised as disappointment. Because you see, rejection doesn't mean you weren't enough. It means the place you were giving your light to didn't deserve its warmth. The divine had to pull you out before your kindness was completely drained. You were sent as a teacher, Capricorn, not a victim. Your life teaches others how to treat what is sacred. Your heart teaches others how to love without condition. Even your absence teaches. It teaches the difference between being loved and being tolerated. And though many failed the test, one day they'll realize the lesson was you. Because even now, they can feel your energy lingering. They remember the calmness in your voice. They remember the safety they felt around you. They remember that no matter what they did, you never matched their cruelty. You always responded with dignity, and that memory will follow them. They will compare every new connection to the peace you once brought. And no matter how much they search, they will never find another Capricorn like you. You carry a rare frequency, the kind of spirit that doesn't just walk into a room, but changes the atmosphere without saying a word. You ground people. You stabilize chaos. You see through illusions. That's why you were misunderstood. Because your depth frightened the shallow. They couldn't handle your strength disguised as gentleness, your wisdom hidden inside patience, your power concealed within humility. So instead of appreciating it, they rejected it. But Capricorn, hear this. Your purpose was never to convince them. Your job was to plant the seed. You were sent to leave a trace of light so that when darkness finally consumes them, they'll remember what truth felt like. Even if they never come back to thank you, your presence changed them. You carried divine energy into dark rooms and left a spark behind. You didn't fail. You fulfilled. Your pain was not in vain. Your scars became your wisdom. Your heartbreak became your healing gift. Now you can look at others and instantly see where they're hurting because you've been there. Now you can guide, protect, and advise. Not from books, but from experience. That's why you were sent. You were sent to transform pain into purpose. You were sent to turn wounds into wisdom. You were sent to bring light into the darkest corners of humanity. And yes, they will remember you. They will remember the one who came with peace and left with grace. They will remember the one who never raised their voice, but whose absence feels louder than any noise. Because the energy of a true Capricorn, loyal, wise, and unshakably kind, can never be replaced. Even time cannot erase your imprint. Your presence was a divine appointment. And now that your purpose in their story is complete, the universe is writing your own chapter of reward. The blessings that follow you now are the result of all the love you gave without recognition. The tables didn't just turn. They realigned everything in your favor. So walk with your head high, Capricorn. You are no longer the misunderstood one. You are the messenger who finished the mission. And even if they never say it aloud, deep down they know you were the best thing that ever happened to them. Your journey was sacred. Your pain was divine training. Your love was the lesson. And your rise, it is heaven's final signature that says, "Well done, my child. You did exactly what you were sent to do." So now, Capricorn, as you stand here watching the tables turn, remember this. Your victory is not about watching anyone fall. It's about watching yourself rise. It's about seeing how far you've come from the places that once tried to destroy you. It's about realizing that your survival was never ordinary, it was divine. Don't rejoice in their fall, rejoice in your rise, because your comeback was never built on revenge. It was born out of revelation. The same people who once doubted you will now witness what happens when heaven defends a humble soul. The same ones who mocked you will soon whisper your name with respect. Your life is now the living proof that kindness was never weakness. It was your crown all along. It was the reason heaven chose you, because even in betrayal, you didn't lose your compassion. Even when you were broken, you still chose to be light. Say it again in the comments below to seal this message in your spirit. My kindness was never weakness. It was divine strength in disguise. Because that's your truth, Capricorn. It was never about who hurt you. It was about who you became through the hurt. It was about how your character stood firm when everything around you tried to shake it. It was about how your patience became your weapon and your peace became your protection. The universe is now rebuilding your name with honor. Everything they tore down with gossip, God is rebuilding with grace. Every lie they told will fade in the light of your results. Doors that were once closed will now open with peace and favor. People who dismissed you will hear your name spoken in rooms you've never even entered, because your energy travels where your presence cannot. You are being lifted, Capricorn, not because you fought for power, but because you stayed faithful to your purpose. You didn't let bitterness take root. You didn't let pain turn you cruel. You kept walking in silence, trusting that divine justice would find its way, and now it has. Let this be your reminder. Your heart was never naive, it was noble. Your empathy wasn't foolish, it was sacred. And the same heart they tried to break is the one that will now carry the blessing. The very thing they tried to shatter in you, your kindness, your loyalty, your compassion, will now be the very thing that breaks their illusions. Because life will show them that they didn't hurt a weak soul, they mishandled a chosen one. They didn't reject a nobody, they rejected a divine messenger in disguise. Capricorn, your story is changing. The storm has passed, the tables have turned. The helper they abused has become the force they can't forget. The one they tried to silence is now the one the universe is amplifying. You are no longer walking through fire. You are walking into favor. And this time, the victory is entirely yours. Not because you demanded it, but because you earned it through your endurance, your faith, and your unshakable heart. If this message spoke to your soul, don't forget to like this video, comment your affirmation below, and subscribe, because your season of divine justice has just begun. Your rise will be peaceful, your blessings will be loud, and your story, Capricorn, will forever remind the world that kindness is never weakness, it is divine power revealed.